Oliver Hahn has a female brother. Their relationship is so close that they sleep in the same bed and share the same ice cream. I asked them to keep their distance. He impatiently responded. If something were to happen, it would have happened already. Can't you give us some trust? Fine. I turned around and found myself a male best friend. Chapter 1. Oliver once again stayed out all night with Simona Jiang. I remained calm. He came back at noon, bringing dim sum from Hung Fu restaurant. Seeing me, he rarely offered an explanation. It's been a long time since we had a gathering. We drank a lot, so we found a gaming hotel to sleep. But this time, we didn't share the same bed. I slept on the floor. He emphasized this point. After all, we had a huge fight over this issue last time. I accused him of being married yet having no sense of boundaries, insisting on confronting Simona. Simona is a girl who grew up playing with them in the same neighborhood. Although she's a girl, she has a carefree personality. She treats everyone like a buddy. I've seen more than one Simona sitting on their laps without any hesitation, joking and laughing, even sharing the same glass without a care. Initially, he patiently explained. Then, he got annoyed and directly threw out a sentence. If something were to happen, it would have happened already. You wouldn't even have married me, and slammed the door as he left. The ridiculous thing is, his friends advised me. Simona grew up with us. She's just like that. Oliver sees her as a kid. A kid? Is 25 still considered a kid? I was so disgusted that I said if he didn't know how to keep boundaries, we'd get divorced. Since then, Oliver indeed kept a distance from Simona for a while, but the result was that Simona would deliberately make sarcastic comments in public. Sis, look, I'm not sitting next to Ollie, right? Ollie, you better not join us for the second round, lest Sis gets angry. Ollie isn't the same Ollie anymore. With a leash around his neck, I dare not get close. She said these things, always making sure I was present. Naturally, it created a subtle atmosphere. Over time, I became known as someone petty, jealous, and unreasonable. My relationship with Oliver also started to become distant and indifferent from that time. Returning to the present, I looked at the takeaway box in Oliver's hand. What used to be my favorite food now seemed tasteless. Oliver noticed my indifference, put the box on the table, walked over to hug me, and spoke with a soft, coaxing tone. Honey, didn't you always want to watch that movie? Today I'm not going to the office. Let's go watch it together. That movie was something I had been looking forward to for a long time. When it was released, I invited Oliver. He said he was busy, but a few days later, I saw Simona showing off movie tickets on her social media. 2 tickets. Although there were no faces in the picture, the hand with distinct knuckles and the wedding ring on the ring finger was unmistakably Oliver's. I smelled a faint scent of pear blossom on Oliver and coldly refused. No need. I continued to pack my luggage. Rita. Oliver's voice held a hint of anger. He grabbed my hand, stopping my actions. Are you playing the runaway game again? I've already said that nothing happened between Simona and me. I know. I calmly pulled my hand back. You two are just siblings. It seemed like he was choked by my words. Oliver's face showed discomfort, and he let go of my hand, frowning. Then what's your problem now? I'm going on a business trip, I explained. Oliver's face turned even darker, staring at me for a long time, as if trying to find any trace of pretense. But there was nothing. My reaction remained calm, because I no longer cared who he watched movies with, who he stayed out all night with, who he dated. It didn't matter anymore. Chapter 2. Seeing that I wasn't angry, Oliver became even angrier. He seemed convinced that I was sulking and was determined to make amends. He took out his phone and started frantically searching for movie tickets. I watched him anxiously search. Finally, I couldn't help but softly remind him, that movie has already been taken down. Oliver's finger froze on the screen. In that moment, I saw a myriad of emotions flash across his face. The air was filled with silent tension. The food on the table grew colder bit by bit. I bent down, packed the last item into my suitcase, and closed it. After that day, Oliver suddenly became very enthusiastic towards me. During the few days I was on a business trip, he would greet me regularly and ask repeatedly about my return time. I told him. On the day of my return, as I left the airport, I saw his car, a black Bugatti, parked by the roadside. Seeing me, he quickly got out of the car, naturally walked over, and took my suitcase. But when we reached the car, I saw Simona in the passenger seat. She was lounging with her legs up, her hand resting on the car window. Seeing me, she smiled sweetly. "Sis, I'm just hitching a ride. I'll let you have the front seat in a bit." She grinned cheekily, saying this, but not showing any intention of moving. Oliver, having put away the luggage, saw me standing still and spoke somewhat uncomfortably. She happened to be nearby, so I gave her a ride. She gets car sick, so I let her sit in the front for this part of the journey. In previous arguments, I had complained about Simona always taking the front seat during our trips, but before I could say anything, Simona poked her head out of the window, her eyes twinkling as she responded. Thank goodness Ollie was nearby today. Otherwise, in that godforsaken place I live, I wouldn't even be able to get a taxi. Sis, if you don't believe me, there are chat logs in the group. That group was created by their childhood friends from the same neighborhood. I wasn't in it. Of course, if Ollie had left me stranded, I would have tattled to our godparents. Simona continued, pretending to punch Oliver in the chest. Halfway through, she seemed to remember something, pulled back, and blinked at me nervously. Sis, I'm just used to this. No other intentions. Since the big fight with Oliver, Simona went from being completely unrestrained with her touchy-feely behavior to pretending to be cautious. It seemed like my nitpicking had made her deliberately keep her distance from Oliver. But if Simona really wanted to keep her distance, why did she soon start staying out all night with them again, having private dates? I could even sense the subtle challenge in her eyes. In the past, such tricks would have infuriated me, but now, I was too tired to deal with it. Even when Oliver asked Simona to get out of the car, I simply waved it off, opened the back door. It doesn't matter. I have a friend who's also heading our way. I'll sit in the back with him. A friend. Where? Before Oliver could react, someone called my name. Turning around, expression changed instantly. There, with broad shoulders and a narrow waist, dressed flamboyantly, a handsome guy dragging a suitcase hurried over. As soon as he stopped, he complained to me, "Rita, you left me behind. I just turned around to get my suitcase and you were gone." The man then pitifully clung to my arm, whining, "I don't know anyone here. You have to take care of me." Chapter 3. This scene left Oliver and Simona both stunned. Soon, Oliver reacted, grabbing me. "This is the friend you mentioned?" His voice carried displeasure, staring at the man in front of him, his brows furrowed so tightly they could crush a mosquito. "Yes, I'm Rita's good friend, Kevin." Kevin cheerfully shook hands with Oliver, naturally put his luggage in the trunk, and then plopped into the back seat, excitedly waving at me. "Rita, hop in." I got into the car but was stopped by Oliver. "Honey, it's not appropriate for men and women to sit together like that, right?" He was very close to me, and I could almost hear the grinding of his teeth. I was puzzled. "Just friends." Out of the corner of my eye, I glanced at Simona, who was still comfortably seated in the front. For a moment, Oliver was speechless. Kevin chatted with me all the way. The front seat seemed unusually quiet. It wasn't that Simona wasn't talking. She had a lively personality. Every time we traveled, she would always chatter endlessly with Oliver. From childhood embarrassments to the latest neighborhood gossip, they would go back and forth, discussing topics I could never join in on from the back seat. But today, no matter how Simona tried to start a conversation, Oliver remained indifferent. A 30-minute drive ended in 15 minutes. After dropping off the two people in the car, he opened the front passenger door for me. "Sit in the front." I looked at him inexplicably and remained seated in the back, calmly refusing. "I'm fine in the back. Tired. Let's just go home quickly." I closed my eyes to rest. In the quiet, the sound of Oliver closing the door was louder and heavier than before. Chapter 4. Oliver entered the house with a dark expression. I had just finished changing my shoes and stepped out of the entrance hall when I saw him sitting in the living room, smoking. The scarlet flame of his cigarette illuminated his face. casting shadows over his expression. What's your relationship with that guy? Oliver took a deep drag of his cigarette, then stubbed it out harshly in the ashtray. Looking up at me, I looked at him, my tone calm. A friend. A friend? A man over 6 feet tall is your friend? Rita, you went on this business trip with him, didn't you? Several days in a row, spending time with that man, getting more and more angry. Oliver kicked the suitcase hard. I also got angry, opened the suitcase, and seeing his furious expression, retorted, business partners are either male or female. He has a good personality, and we get along. What's wrong with being friends? Of course there's a problem. He's a man. How can a man be a friend like that? Why? You can have a female brother, but I can't have a male friend? My words left him speechless. I had never seen so many conflicting emotions on Oliver's face before. Shock, frustration, and resentment. Finally, he almost spat out through gritted teeth. Simona is different. We grew up together. If anything were to happen, it would have. Kevin and I are different too. Can't we trust each other? I interrupted him, my tone firm. Chapter 5. Oliver was at a loss. For several days, we gave each other the cold shoulder. A few uneventful days passed. His parents invited us over for dinner. At the dinner table, his parents noticed the tension between us and subtly hinted at Oliver. Ollie, Rita moved far away from home to be with you. You must treat her well. Oliver and I were college classmates. I am an only child. According to the original plan, after graduation, I should have returned to my hometown to develop my career. But for him, I resolutely stayed here, listening to his parents. Oliver's expression softened. Before leaving, he took my hand. Rita, Before he could finish, someone threw an arm around his neck. Ollie, you're finally back. Let's hang out. It was Simona. Once again, she was shamelessly hanging on to Oliver. But this time, Oliver didn't smile back as usual. Instead, he removed her hand, looking nervously at me. Simona noticed too, clicked her tongue, and started making exaggerated expressions. Oh, it's sis? Saying this, she took a deliberate step back, landing right in the arms of a group of people who had followed us. Oliver, you didn't even show up in the group chat. If Simona hadn't seen you, we would have missed you. Yeah, everyone's here. Let's hang out. A group of people started jeering. Oliver's face clearly showed he was tempted. But unlike before, he didn't immediately agree. Instead, he looked at me for approval. Everyone noticed. Although married, this group was somewhat distant from me. Firstly, because I wasn't part of their circle. And secondly, because of Simona. Whenever I was present, they felt restrained. How about you join us? Oliver tentatively asked me. Almost simultaneously, I sensed the tension in the air. Simona's reaction was the most obvious. She pouted and kept making eye signals to the others. Everyone was waiting for my answer, hoping I wouldn't go, yet hoping I'd let Oliver go, as they wished. I withdrew my hand from Oliver's, my voice calm and gentle, saying, "Then I'll take a taxi home." No one spoke. The atmosphere turned awkwardly silent. After a while, Oliver hesitated, looking relieved yet guilty. Then, "I'll come back early." He gave a reassuring promise, and I just smiled, walking straight out of the courtyard. As I turned away, someone blurted out, "Oliver, did sis have a change of heart? Not jealous of Simona anymore? Letting you hang out with us?" Chapter 6. At 11 o'clock at night, Oliver hadn't returned. I didn't ask, because I had just made plans with Kevin, along with a few other friends. We went to the most bustling bar in town. The pounding music hit our eardrums, bringing a sense of reckless abandon. Our group chose a spacious booth and quickly started having fun. After a few rounds of drinks, someone next to me suddenly got excited and pointed to a spot. "Whoa, that looks wild over there." Everyone perked up immediately and turned to look. I turned too, and saw familiar faces. At a nearby table, it was Oliver's childhood friends from the neighborhood. 7 guys and 1 girl, with the table piled high with bottles. Oliver was in the center seat, though his face was unclear from this distance. His actions showed he was looking down at his phone. Soon, Simona snatched the phone from his hand, then straddled him, wrapping her arms around his neck and waving a bottle of alcohol. Everyone seemed used to it, even standing up to cheer. Looks like they're playing King's game, feeding each other drinks mouth to mouth. This girl is wild. She was just asked to take off her bra, and she took it off without a word and hung it around the neck of the guy next to her. That's something even a fearless man couldn't pull off. I've seen guys ride girls, but never 7 guys and 1 girl. Everyone was laughing, but I wasn't, because I saw Oliver put down his phone and, amid everyone's cheers, allowed Simona to bend down with the alcohol in her mouth, ready to respond with his lips. Utterly disgusting. Chapter 7. Simona didn't get to feed him, because I walked over and slapped her. The scene became very ugly. Oliver's group of friends tried to smooth things over, saying it was just a joke. Simona looked pitiful and said it was just a game, but I, with a blank expression, threw her bra, which was still hanging on another man, in her face and turned to leave. If you like playing, wait until Oliver and I divorce. Then you can play all you want, I said as I left. I was serious, because I was truly tired, but Oliver didn't agree. He chased me back home. Honey, we were really just playing a game. Simona always messes around with us. We don't even think of her as a woman. Honey, you just lost your temper too. At worst, I promise I won't mess around with them again. Rita, I didn't even say anything about you coming to the bar with a group of guys. The more he tried to appease me, the more impatient he became. Finally, he grabbed his hair and yelled at me. At this moment, I had already packed my luggage. I had a lot of things. I couldn't pack everything at once, but right now, I didn't want to stay with him for another second. Move. I looked coldly at his arm blocking my way, my gaze moving up, my voice unexpectedly calm. True heartbreak isn't about loud fights. It's about feeling like this, when everything has lost its meaning. Oliver was scared by my expression. His tall figure slightly stiffened, his face flushed with alcohol, and he gritted his teeth. Do you have to be so serious about this? Oliver, can you accept me sitting on Kevin's lap like that? I asked. Oliver froze. I sneered. Taking a step closer, you can't. You saw us sitting together in the back seat during a business trip and got mad at me for days. So why do you expect me to turn a blind eye? That's different. Oliver blurted out. I'm a man, you're a woman. When I go out, no one takes advantage of me. Hearing Oliver's words, I was once again shattered. I even felt like I was meeting this person for the first time. My body trembled involuntarily, and I said in disbelief, so, you all knew. You knew Simona's behavior was wrong. It was wanton. It was disgusting. But just because she's a woman, you enjoy it. You take pride in taking advantage of her? Oliver was speechless. His face turned pale, and he averted his gaze. I hit the mark. I couldn't help but laugh. Kevin, I brought him to provoke you on purpose, I said. Oliver's eyes lit up with surprise. Then I continued, because I initially thought you just didn't understand the boundaries of male and female relationships, and I wanted you to learn from experience. But I was wrong. You weren't unaware. You just enjoyed it. I pushed him hard. Oliver, a man over 6 feet tall, fell to the ground unprepared. I ignored him. Oliver, let's get a divorce, or I'll despise you even more. Chapter 8. Oliver refused to agree to the divorce. He even brought in my parents. Oliver had a good image with my parents. He was highly educated, handsome, had well-respected parents, started his own company right after graduation, and showed great sincerity when we got married. So, they helped Oliver try to persuade me. But after a few days, the tide turned, because Oliver became famous. Someone had filmed the bar incident and uploaded it online. Suddenly, the whole internet knew about Simona sitting on a married man's lap, feeding him alcohol mouth to mouth, and getting slapped by the man's wife. The public opinion was overwhelmingly against them. Everyone was condemning Simona and Oliver. Disgusting. She knew he had a wife and still went for it. She doesn't care if he has a wife. She'd go for anyone. Didn't you see her bra hanging around another guy's neck? Wow, public property. The guy is gross too. So many people, and he's not afraid of getting diseases. At first, Simona argued with the netizens, saying they were heartless and dirty-minded, and that her relationship with Oliver was pure childhood friendship. But the netizens didn't buy it. They started digging up her information, her various accounts. The more they dug, the more they found. She wore her brother's clothes, slept in their beds, drank from the same cup, shared an ice cream, held hands tightly. The worst was when she sneaked into a private male bathhouse wrapped in a towel to soak with her brothers. She documented all of this in her daily posts. Her words filled with pride. Simona became famous. Oliver became famous. Their entire group from the neighborhood became famous. Those with girlfriends all broke up, and the singles lost any chance of finding someone. Marketing accounts dubbed them Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs. Netizens said this was the worst defamation of Snow White ever. Watching all this unfold, I actually felt a bit of satisfaction. Simona was like a cancer in my relationship with Oliver, growing bigger and bigger. I tried to remove it, but Oliver never cared. Now, the cancer had backfired, but I had already detached myself. After a few days of headlines, the public outcry was suppressed. Oliver's friends were all wealthy and influential local scions. Overnight, all negative comments were wiped clean. Simona's accounts were completely cleared as well. A few days later, Oliver's parents came to see me. They begged me to visit Oliver. He had drunk himself sick, vomiting blood. By the time they found him and took him to the hospital, he was in a deep coma, barely saved after a night of emergency care. On the hospital bed, he kept murmuring my name. I know Ollie was wrong this time, but for the sake of your marriage, please go see him. Rita, please. From his parents. I went to the hospital. Oliver had lost a lot of weight. The loose hospital gown hung on him, empty and forlorn. His face was pale, almost transparent. Only when he saw me did his desolate face light up a bit. I walked over, stopping his struggle to sit up. When will you be discharged? I asked. Oliver's eyes brightened, and he struggled to speak. Next week. Rita, does this mean you're willing to forgive me? I promise. If you give me another chance, I'll never make the same mistake again. I'll keep my distance from Simona. When you're discharged, we'll file for divorce. I shattered his hope, watching Oliver's face contort in pain, sweat beads forming on his forehead, sliding down his temples and face. His voice was rough like it was filled with sand. Rita, I didn't cheat. You know that. It was all just fooling around. I promise I'll keep my distance from them if you don't like it. Rita, I beg you, don't leave me. Seeing I was unmoved, Oliver fell off the bed. Kneeling in front of me, he knocked over the four-stand, scattering everything on the ground, the needle twisting and cutting his hand, blood splattering, a pitiful and tragic sight. When had Oliver ever been like this? He came from a good family, good looks. He always had girls around him, proud as he was. When had he ever begged a woman? I should be moved, but I wasn't. I just looked down at him, with no intention of helping, shaking my head. No, my coldness hurt Oliver. I could clearly feel his pain and despair, even a bit of incomprehension. It was Simona who came onto us. I didn't reject her, but I never did anything to betray you. Why can't you let it go? He shouted in despair. It seemed to pull at his wound, his waist and abdomen quickly soaked with blood, the red shocking to see. The commotion quickly brought in both our parents. Seeing this, the scene turned chaotic. Rita, Oliver made a mistake, but the main culprit is Simona. Oliver just treated her as a sister. He was also deceived. There's a saying, it takes 100 years to form a boat ride together, 1,000 years to sleep together as a couple. We've watched you and Oliver come this far. Does it really have to end like this? I promise. As long as you and Oliver don't divorce, from now on, the house, the car, the company, and all the savings will be in your name. If there's a next time, Oliver will leave with nothing. My father-in-law promised. He had absolute authority in the family. Indeed, my parents were swayed. They looked hesitant. Rita, the Hahn family is sincere this time. And Oliver, He really knows he was wrong, my mother whispered, pulling me aside. My father wanted to argue, but my mother glared at him and pulled his ear. Oscar, I know what you want to say. We can support our daughter, but Rita's child also can't be without a father. Yes, I was pregnant. 1 month. I had planned to find a chance to get an abortion, but my parents found out. Elders value life far more than expected. They looked at Oliver, not saying anything, but their expressions were much softer than before. Clearly, they wanted to give Oliver another chance. Chapter 9. In the end, I agreed to give Oliver a chance. As long as he had no contact with Simona for a month, I would stop considering divorce. Both sets of parents were witnesses. He was overjoyed and agreed immediately. He seemed to think my proposal was something easily achievable for him. Both families breathed a sigh of relief, but only I knew. For him, this was a losing bet. Chapter 10. Oliver blocked Simona. He really stopped contacting her. He left the group, unfollowed all her accounts, and even showed me daily screenshots of his phone to ensure his contacts were clean. Kevin was surprised. Rita, you're not thinking of getting back with your ex, are you? He leaned in, gossiping. Though he seemed carefree, he always kept an appropriate distance from me. Kevin knew about my issues with Oliver. During our business trip, he seriously analyzed the situation and offered me a solution. Fight fire with fire. Make Oliver experience what it's like to have a close opposite-sex friend. The effect was quite clear, but now, I realized the problem wasn't Simona. Kevin noticed my determination and said, "Divorce is inevitable." Thinking I had reconsidered, both families assumed I had relented. However, after sending my parents away, I scheduled an abortion. That day was Simona's birthday. How did I know? Because Simona, as the only girl in their group, always had a mandatory full attendance at her birthday celebrations. Rain or shine, I deliberately chose that day, not out of spite, but because I didn't want Oliver to disturb me. Kevin took me there. On the way, he cried more than I did. I'm serious. Keeping the child isn't impossible. I could help raise it. I'm never getting married anyway. Kevin had a very loving first love who unfortunately passed away at 20. Since then, he had disguised himself as carefree, always staying single. Rita, won't you reconsider? I'll cover half the costs of raising the child. Waiting outside the operating room, he still insisted, but I remained calm. I am me first, then a mother to my child. Kevin was speechless, looking at me with a complex expression, then nodded, as a friend. I respect all your decisions. As a man, I understand your determination to leave Oliver. I forced a smile. Without looking, I knew my expression was bleak. Even though I had made my decision, I still teared up when I turned away. My flat belly didn't make me feel like a mother, but I admitted, it was for this child that I didn't immediately file for divorce and decided to give Oliver a chance to empathize. Unfortunately, he didn't seize it. Chapter 11. After the anesthesia took effect, I was unaware of everything, so I didn't know I had gone through a life and death ordeal. The patient is bleeding heavily and it won't stop. Where are the patient's family members? We need an immediate signature. When the doctor rushed out of the operating room, Kevin was stunned. They shoved the documents into his hands, but he couldn't prove any familial relationship with me. Can we leave it blank for now? Her parents aren't local, and her husband is busy. Are you kidding? Hospital regulations. Call her husband immediately. The patient's condition is critical. The doctor's face was full of urgency. Kevin snapped out of his daze and frantically called Oliver. Once, twice, 3 times, 13 times, 33 times, 53 times. No answer. Even on the 53rd call, the phone was directly hung up. Kevin went from being worried to panicking, and finally, he broke down completely. Answer the phone. Oliver, you damn bastard. Your wife is dying, and you have the nerve to be celebrating another woman's birthday. He screamed hysterically in the hospital corridor. Onlookers, both medical staff and patients, paused to watch the scene. Moved by what they saw, they joined in, cursing the scumbag and helping to find a solution. Later, someone suggested, If you can't find him, try finding someone who can. Kevin had an epiphany and used my phone to dial another number. Chapter 12. Oliver arrived 15 minutes later. Following him were my in-laws. When Oliver arrived, he was covered in cake and cream. His tie hung loosely around his neck. His collar was wide open, and his hair was soaking wet. These were details I heard from Kevin after I woke up. Your uterine wall is naturally thin, which caused the heavy bleeding, but fortunately, the emergency treatment was timely, and they managed to save your uterus. Kevin marveled at my luck. I remained indifferent and asked, "Is Oliver still kneeling outside?" This time, Oliver was kneeling outside the hospital room, and no one pleaded for him. My in-laws knew they were in the wrong. After the surgery, my mother-in-law comforted me for a while. Before leaving, she held my hand reluctantly. "Rita, you've suffered so much these years after marrying into our family. My son is hopeless. If you want a divorce, we won't try to stop you. Follow your own heart." Coming back to the present, I met Kevin's complex gaze. Remaining calm, "Help me out." Kevin wanted to persuade me, but he couldn't, so he helped me into a wheelchair and pushed me towards the door. In the hospital corridor, Oliver was kneeling upright, still in the wrinkled suit from the day, with a bruise on his cheekbone. Kevin had hit him. In front of everyone, Oliver hadn't fought back. And now, with people coming and going, Oliver, who always disliked being watched, hadn't moved an inch. Seeing me, his face showed pain and sorrow. But before he could speak, I threw a document at him. "You lost." The 3 concise words made Oliver's face change drastically. The noisy corridor was filled with onlookers' murmurs, but they couldn't drown out his heavy breathing. Without looking at the document on the ground, he stared at me intently. Smart as he was, he quickly sensed something was off. "You chose today on purpose, just to make me choose, to make me regret." The more he spoke, the more pained he looked. Finally, he struck his temple hard, and I rolled my eyes. "You overthink. No matter what choice you made, I didn't want this child." My voice was weak as I leaned against the wall. Hitting the mark, "I knew you couldn't do it, even though the task was simple. Just 1 month without contacting Simona. But such a simple thing. Oliver couldn't do it. Simona saved our lives in elementary school, so we promised her we'd always gather for her birthday." When they were in 3rd grade, Oliver and his friends had a wild idea to go on an adventure. They found a shipping container to sleep in for the night. As a result, when they woke up the next day, they were already thousands of meters in the air, precariously hanging. Fortunately, Simona, who had secretly followed them, discovered the situation in time and saved them. Since then, Simona had been included in the group of boys, becoming their undisputed favorite, but their cherished pet was their business. Chapter 13. Oliver agreed to the divorce. All the paperwork was completed. Soon, the 1-month cooling-off period passed. As we walked out of the Civil Affairs Bureau, his expression looked mournful. He was still unwilling to let go, begging me for another chance, saying he wanted to atone, saying he loved me. His tall frame was hunched over almost to the breaking point. From pleading to, finally, relentless clinging. In the midst of our struggle, neither of us noticed we had stepped onto the street, nor did we notice the red BMW speeding straight towards me. Bang! Everything happened too fast. By the time I reacted, Oliver had already been hit and thrown into the air in front of me. It was like a slow-motion scene from a movie. The last thing he said to me before being thrown was, "I'm sorry." In that moment, my heart stopped, accompanied by the heavy thud. I snapped back to reality. I rushed over, and at that moment, Simona burst out of the passenger seat, screaming when she saw that it was Oliver who had been hit. She yelled at me to die and came at me with a knife, but she was quickly subdued by patrolling police officers, who pinned her to the car hood and took the knife from her. "Rita, why don't you die? If it weren't for you, they wouldn't have all distanced themselves from me. It's all because of you. You bitch. I'll kill you." Simona had gone mad, because on the day of the surgery, my in-laws had found Oliver and the neighborhood friends at Simona's place. They were furious and, along with several families, decided to blacklist the Jiang family. To quell the outrage, the Jiang family decided to sacrifice Simona, sending her abroad and forbidding her from ever returning. The young masters who had once treated her like a mascot immediately distanced themselves from her when it touched their own interests. For Simona, this was her darkest hour, and she believed that I was the cause of all of it. If I were dead, everything could go back to how it was. Listening to her, I only felt absurdity. Chapter 14. Oliver survived, but he was paralyzed from the waist down. Simona wasn't sentenced to death, but she was convicted of intentional injury and sentenced to life imprisonment. I heard that in prison. For some unknown reason, her face was slashed and disfigured. After Oliver's accident, many people came to me. His parents, his friends, my parents. His parents begged me not to abandon Oliver at this time for the sake of our past marriage. His friends hoped I would stay with him because he saved my life. My parents, however, urged me to come home and not stay to trouble myself. In the end, I went to see Oliver. The once proud man now lay in a hospital bed, needing someone to take care of all his basic needs. He didn't speak, but when he looked at me, his eyes were filled with regret. I thanked him. After all, he had saved my life. I know I have no right to ask you to stay. Oliver choked out, his voice hoarse and filled with sorrow. Everything now is my own doing. My retribution. The doctors haven't given up on you. If you cooperate with the treatment, you still have a chance to walk again, I said. Oliver was visibly excited, looking at me with hope, nervously and cautiously asking, "So you're willing to?" "I'm going back home. You know, I'm an only child. If it weren't for you, I would have returned home after graduation to start my career." My tone was calm and steady. In that instant, I saw Oliver's face darken, like a sunflower losing its vitality. His eyes reddened, and his smile was bitter and self-mocking. I knew it. A cripple like me is meant to rot in the mud for the rest of my life. Oliver, we each have our own lives. You can no longer influence mine, and I shouldn't influence yours. I interrupted his self-pity. Maybe my gaze was too piercing, striking his heart. The room fell silent. Sunlight streamed through the window, casting a golden glow on me. Chapter 15. I went back home. I continued to hear bits and pieces about Oliver. Oliver took 2 years to walk again, but his illness delayed his company's progress, leading to its closure. Another New Year's came. Kevin sent me a message. "Happy New Year." I received the message while helping my parents make dumplings. I wiped the flour off my hands and saw a selfie of him sitting alone on a balcony. I couldn't help but tease. "Spending New Year's alone again? If you can't stand it, come to my parents' place. They'll take you in for a few days." He quickly replied, "No, my partner wouldn't be happy." He was referring to his long-deceased first love. I raised an eyebrow and continued, "Impressive. Maintaining such gentlemanly conduct all these years." "Of course. Friends also need boundaries." I laughed. Looking up, I gazed out the window. It was snowing, and the scenery was beautiful.